This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. A teenager faces a second-degree murder charge tonight. He's accused of killing a 14-year-old girl who was stabbed to death last week. The CBC's Rosanna Hempel reports.
A 17-year-old accused of fatally stabbing a teen girl here by Graham and Fort on Friday is in custody. Jason Mikulishin with the Winnipeg Police Service says officers arrested the boy at a home in St. Boniface on Monday.
Forensics, witness account, surveillance, all of it assisted us with respect to identifying this individual and getting him into custody.
At a vigil Monday night, dozens gathered outside Mamawi to honor the young Indigenous life lost, a 14-year-old girl. Heidi Spence, who supports families of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, says the community is heartbroken.
This is, I think the second vigil in a matter of a couple weeks. It doesn't get easier. I know it's really hard on family members, community members.
The girl's death is the city's 40th homicide and the province's youngest in 2023. Mikulishin says the 17-year-old charged is known to police. Police say an argument broke out between the suspect and the victim, who were acquaintances.
Things escalated very quickly, and our 17-year-old male, now in custody, did produce a knife and stabbed the 14-year-old multiple times.
Mikulishin says her two friends who were there are also teens and have been identified and interviewed.
I think we're all struggling with that. We're struggling with the ages of these individuals that are involved. We have teenagers, we have a 17-year-old accused, we have a 14-year-old female, a 14-year-old young girl that's lost her life. That is incredibly sad.
While the investigation is ongoing, police say they plan on increasing patrols downtown. Advocates hope awareness of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls will increase too. Rosanna Hempel, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Manitoba Nurses Union says the Emergency Department at Health Sciences Centre is in crisis. This past weekend, the HSE-ER saw a higher than average number of critical patients. CBC's Zubina Ahmed reports.
Joy Nolan was waiting at the HSE Emergency Department all day yesterday.
Hours and hours wait yet like this.
Nolan's wait is among the many challenges the Nurses Union is concerned about.
We shouldn't be suffering in pain. There should be a better setup, maybe a larger facilities to accommodate the amount of people we have in our cities, in this growing city.
This past weekend, a nurse posted a message on social media which stated, "The HSE's adult ER is drowning, as wait times recently hit more than 30 hours, and some patients were left unmonitored in hallways." The union president, Darlene Jackson, says the HSE ER saw a higher than average number of critical patients.
So that post actually came from a nurse who messaged in and said, somebody please tell the Minister of Health, tell the government, tell our employers, tell somebody, we need help here.
Jackson says staff shortages, lack of beds, and respiratory illness season are some of the other factors contributing to overwhelmed emergency rooms across the province. According to a shared health spokesperson, there were 164 patients who needed care at HSE's adult ER. 119 were seriously ill. 6 resuscitation beds were also over capacity.
They know the care that those patients require. They are just not able to provide that constant monitoring of those patients. And so those patients are being moved out into a hallway, which the nurses believe is very unsafe.
The province says the ER wait times are a result of the long-standing issues and deficit of $1.6 billion left by the previous BC government. According to the health minister, the new NDP government is looking for solutions to fill that gap.
Certainly retention is key. It's probably our top priority in terms of healthcare human resource is retaining the healthcare expertise that we have working in our healthcare system, keeping our system afloat and functioning. And so, our team has sent an open letter to healthcare workers. We've started our listening tour. We've met with the frontline healthcare workers at the Grace.
Asaguara says one of the ideas is to allow hospitals to discharge patients with complex needs 7 days a week. Right now, if a patient needs a social worker or a physiotherapist, they can only be released on weekdays. Zubina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Now, Manitoba's NDP government ran on a platform of improving health care. It's now putting a number of healthcare projects on hold. One is a personal care home facility initially announced by a previous NDP government 11 years ago. CBC's Bartley Kivas joins us now live from the newsroom. Bartley, first, why is this government putting healthcare projects on hold?
A few weeks back, the Premier and the Finance Minister did what all new governments do. They blamed the previous Progressive Conservative government for not disclosing the true state of the books. Wab Kinew said the deficit for this fiscal year is expected to be $1.6 billion. So now the Health Minister says all healthcare capital projects are under review.
You know, when we have a $1.6 billion deficit handed to us by the PCs, it's a pretty big financial mess that our government has to clean up while also making sure that we are investing in strengthening healthcare.
Now, the Health Minister says that she is not providing a list, or they, are not providing a list of all the projects, as to where it did confirm that one project on pause is a 92-bed, $65 million personal care home plan for Lac du Bonnet. This project was originally announced by Greg Sellinger's NDP government in 2012. It was then cancelled by Brian Pallister's PC government in 2017, and then revived by Heather Stephenson's PCs this summer. Wab Kinew also promised this summer to make it happen. The Reeve of the arm of Lac du Bonnet says he's frustrated by the pause and says seniors in his area don't appreciate being political pawns.
We have 65 people waiting for a bed right now in our area, and they're paying for their hospital beds because they've been paneled. Certainly in their golden years, they deserve to be respected and live out their golden years in a properly prepared, proper facility.
The opposition PCs say there are two other care homes that were approved and are on hold now, one in Arborg and one in Winnipeg.
The NDP is not being transparent with Manitobans. They aren't transparent about the finances, and now they're trying to cut important projects without telling on anyone. We cannot allow this to fly underneath the radar.
To be clear, the NDP says these projects are not being cut, they're under review. Seguera won't say how long the review will take or what criteria will be employed. Janet.
Thank you, Bartley. The CBC's Bartley Kivas reporting live from the newsroom tonight. Advocates for electric vehicles in Manitoba want the provincial government to offer incentives for people to make the switch to electric vehicles. This renewed call comes as the federal government announced today new targets to phase out gas-powered passenger vehicles. As CBC's Josh Crabb reports, there's still uncertainty among some buyers, but others have embraced electrification.
Powering up by plugging in. Mark Bagan's company, Easy EV, installs residential and commercial electric vehicle chargers, and he also drives a 2017 Nissan Leaf. He's optimistic about a new target by the federal government requiring all new vehicles to be emissions-free by 2035.
We're very encouraged. We're happy to hear it moving forward. I think 2035 is a realistic target as well.
Canada's Environment Minister, Stephen Guilbeault, says under the electric vehicle availability standard, automakers will be encouraged to phase out production of gasoline or diesel-powered passenger vehicles while earning credits for increasing the proportion of electric vehicles they sell. Manufacturers will have to hit a minimum target of 20% EV sales by 2026, with the percentage rising until it reaches 100% by 2035.
The standard tackles one of the main barriers to people buying EVs, the limited availability and long wait time.
The president of Birchwood Automotive Group, Steve Chipman, says EVs only account for about 2% of sales at the company's dealerships. He says concerns over a lack of charging infrastructure and affordability are among some of the barriers for buyers.
The early adopters are taken. You get the next wave of people are going like, I would like to drive an electric car, but it's got to make some economic sense to me, especially in our economy right now.
There are 861 electric passenger vehicles registered in Manitoba and 15,155 hybrids, according to MPI. Manitobans can get rebates of up to $5,000 from the federal government, but unlike some other provinces, Manitoba doesn't have a rebate of its own. Environment Minister Tracy Schmidt says the NDP government is holding to its campaign promise of offering additional rebates of $4,000 for a new vehicle and $2,500 for a used one.
We are currently working very hard to deliver on that promise and get that program off the ground as soon as possible.
Bagan's company has installed 50 residential chargers and more than 20 commercial ones since its start 18 months ago. He says more are needed to help Manitobans keep their EVs charged up no matter where they're traveling.
You do have to plan your trips as it stands, as the infrastructure gets built out, just like the adoption of oil. Eventually it will be there.
It's a big change that will require more investment to get people to buy in. Josh Krebs, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Seniors who live on the Portage Avenue building that used to be known as Lyons Place say life hasn't been as good since the property was sold to a private company. While they did have some bed bugs before, residents say the problem has gotten much worse. The I-Team's Caroline Bargut reports.
When we met Robert Robinson, it had been a month since he moved into his new apartment, and he still had a lot to unpack. In order to get a room at this seniors complex, he had to prove he had no bed bugs. That meant throwing out some of his furniture and getting all of his clothes heat treated and vacuum packed.
I have spent about $3,500 just to get away from there bug-free.
Robinson moved from Lyons Place, where he battled bed bugs for months. He finally had had enough and decided to find a new place to live.
You know, when you're laying in bed and you're awake and you look over and one's crawling across your pillow, that's not a pleasant situation.
The Lyons had owned the building for decades and had an operating agreement with the province where they received a government subsidy to help keep the rent low until the mortgage was paid off. That agreement expired a few years ago. In February, the Lyons sold the building to a Calgary-based company called Main Street Equity Corporation because they couldn't afford the capital repair costs. Current resident Gerald Brown says things went downhill from there. And as a result, seniors like Robinson started to move out of the building.
He left because his family told him we cannot put up with this anymore because they saw him working towards a nervous breakdown. Well, I was really sorry because he was my friend. All these other people that have moved out were my friends too.
There used to be a doctor's office in the building, but it closed after Main Street wanted to charge rent, which they never had to pay before. Brown says the place used to feel more like a community, and there was a residence coordinator to help organize outings and events for the seniors, but not anymore.
You want to have a brunch? Go ahead, you organize it. You want to have a party? You go ahead and organize it.
Stop the sale! Stop the sale!
Before the building was sold, residents held protests to try to stop the sale for fears their rent would go up and they'd no longer be able to afford to live there. The former Conservative government gave Main Street a $1.2 million subsidy to freeze rents for the next 2 years. The new NDP housing minister says the province is looking for a longer-term solution to this issue and other social housing units with operating agreements that are set to expire.
We really need to extend those beyond 20 years and ensure that we are keeping nonprofit housing nonprofit for the duration of the existence of those properties.
When Robert Robinson moved into Lyons Place 4 years ago, he thought it would be his forever home. And while he misses his friends and old community, he looks forward to living out the rest of his days without having to deal with bed bugs again. Caroline Bargut, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Dozens of people gathered outside Member of Parliament Dan Vandel's Winnipeg office today. They were there calling for a ceasefire in the Middle East. They'd like Canada to push for one. It's part of a movement being called Mennonite Action. Byron Rempel Burkholder says his group acknowledges suffering on both sides.
We are here to call for justice, a just peace, and a long-term approach to the situation there.
Well, it's time to check on our weather forecast. Here's weather specialist Ethan Williams.
Well, thanks, Janet. This time yesterday, it was a warm front that we were talking about, dividing the province west to east temperature-wise. Today, it's this cold front, which is moving kind of from north to south, connected to this low-pressure system, bringing some really chilly temperatures to far northern Manitoba. And high pressure in place in the north is keeping that there. And it's also clearing out the skies as well. But you see this snow here in Saskatchewan. It's making a run for those of us in southern Manitoba. So what exactly can we expect from that? Well, after this front departs overnight tonight, a little bit of snow possible in the Parklands and around the Brandon area. That high pressure moves out as we head into tomorrow. We get some increasing cloudiness, and that system kind of gathers together with this one that's heading through northern Manitoba. And likely by the time the system hits Winnipeg and the Red River Valley, it's kind of out of steam, and we're really not expecting anything except clouds tomorrow. But the north of the province will get a good amount of snow, and likely another round as another low passes to the north. Thursday will finally bring a bit of clearing to the Winnipeg area before we get a little bit more cloud cover toward the end of the work week. So from the system overnight tonight in portions of Westman, we're looking for maybe about a centimeter or two. But again, through the north tomorrow could be upwards of 5 to 10 centimeters in some spots. And we're going to see the winds pick up a little bit with those as well. Could be in the 40 to 50 range in the north. A little bit breezy through the day tomorrow in southern Manitoba, including the Winnipeg area. And then we'll see those pick up again as we start to head into Saturday. So for tonight in Winnipeg, the cold front not going to really have a huge impact on us. We'll be sitting around -10 at midnight. The clouds, again, kind of building in here. Winds not too bad. Then as we get into the morning hours tomorrow, still mostly cloudy. Temperatures not changing all that much, around -9 or so. And then as we hit the noon hour, that's when we're going to start to see those winds pick up a bit. I think probably mid-afternoon tomorrow is when they'll be gustiest. We're aiming for a high of around -4. We'll be at -6 by the noon hour, but cloud cover has likely moved in pretty much completely by that point. So we'll call it a mostly cloudy day tomorrow with that afternoon wind. Not much of a temperature change heading overnight because things going to warm up as we head into Thursday, and that's when we see those clearing conditions as well. Friday, we should be seeing that full sunshine before the cloud builds back in for the weekend, a high of 2 degrees. So first day of winter, Janet, is here on Thursday. Doesn't really much all look like winter as we head through the rest of the week here. I'll have your full provincial forecast coming up.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Ethan. Well, with Christmas just days away, literally around the corner now, we wanted to check in with some local Winnipeg bakeries, and boy, are they busy. Avril Nguyen is a baker in the north end of Winnipeg, and she says she's been getting orders for cookies since early December. She's been making some 500 cookies a day. Her specialty is something called New York-style cookies. CBC's Jim Agapito had a chance to visit her in her Vietnamese bakery.
It's the most wonderful time of the year for some people, and well, I'm at a local bakery that's getting ready for that Christmas rush, making their special red velvet cookies. Let's find out what they got.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Jim.
My name is April. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Where are we?
So we are a Vietnamese bakery, April's Baked Joy.
One of the joyous times of the year is Christmas.
It is Christmas.
Yeah. I can imagine. How busy are you guys right now?
We are very busy with the cookies. We're doing cookie boxes with bite-sized cookies.
Tell me about some of the flavors you make.
Uno Nutella, it's an Oreo, and a Rocky Road chocolate cookies. So right now, our best seller is red velvet cookies, so definitely red velvet cookies.
Can you show me how you make these cookies?
Sure.
What do you do first?
So the trick for NYC cookie is to make it chunky, and the trick to make it chunky is to start with cold butter. Cold butter.
Now, who doesn't love a chunky cookie, right?
Our red velvet, we have the filling inside, which is cream cheese. So cream cheese giving a little sourness, and it's balance out the sweetness. I'm just gonna crack my eggs, put in some color. So you get a beautiful red color. That's the red velvet. I'm gonna put sugar and the butter. So the trick is you're using white sugar. White sugar would give you, the crispiness. And brown sugar will keep the moisture of the cookies.
Look at that color, huh? So we got some of the chippets.
Okay, chocolate go in.
Never hold back.
Never hold back.
How long do you wait?
For like 2 more seconds. This is done. Voila.
Voila.
See how beautiful that is. So
Holy.
this is the filling. We make it the 4 hands. We gotta make it the night before.
Yeah.
So one cookie we weighted 120 grams for those with filling. Okay, I'll let you pass.
Okay, well, someone gets a little bit of an extra treat, okay?
You forgot the filling.
Okay, so does it matter which way it goes in?
Grab it up.
Oh my gosh, I made my first cookie! I made my first cookie! High five!
High five! And it's ready to go to the oven.
Okay, so we have, look at that. They're finished. Look at that. Look at how big they are. Can I try one?
Oh my God, of course.
Okay, this is.
We could share.
Ooh, let's share one.
I gotta have
Okay.
like one. It's so, you get the crispy from the outside and it's really soft and chewy from the inside. That's heaven.
Okay, let's cheers.
Let's get it.
Okay.
Cheers. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
This is the totally biased.
Wow.
I love my cookies.
Oh,
so
I love
bad.
your cookies too.
She deserves to be totally biased. They look delicious, don't they? Wow. This is a busy time of year for so many of us. It's especially busy for Santa Claus. You know, this week he's actually been traveling, visiting some northern Manitoba communities, dropping off early Christmas treats for the kids. It's all thanks to Manitoba, Kiiwetinowi, Okimakaanak's annual Santa Express. MKO Grand Chief Garrison Settee and Santa spoke with CBC Today by Zoom.
They got a hold of me on the Santa hotline. That's 14 years ago, and I said, you know what, December's not too busy for Santa. I'll get out of Mrs. Claus's hair and go spend a few days in northern Manitoba.
The expression on their faces and the look in their eyes is just, it makes it all worthwhile, because what we do is a massive undertaking and it's a lot of work, and it can be tiring, but when you see those kids, it just makes it all worthwhile.
So many parents have thought the same thing. Santa will make more deliveries to different communities tomorrow. Israel has opened up the door to a second humanitarian pause in its war with Hamas. This as aid agencies sound alarms about the worsening humanitarian crisis in Gaza. We'll bring you the latest after the break. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News.
your news, you want up-to-the-minute access. Anytime, anywhere. Get the facts straight from the source. Download the free CBC News app or visit cbcnews.ca for news you can trust.
Israel's president says his country is ready for a new pause in the war to deliver aid to people in Gaza and secure the release of more hostages. But Hamas says it will not engage in any negotiations to exchange hostages so long as fighting continues. Julia Wong has the latest.
The chaos of casualties is overwhelming after an Israeli strike Tuesday morning in southern Gaza. We were sleeping when we heard a big explosion, this man says. We were sleeping next to the rubble here. We escaped death by a miracle. That grim reality is why countless children displaced by the war are sheltering in this school, playing games to distract from the violence. We have not lived. We are not happy, this girl says. There is only fear and bombardment all around us. Where can we go?
Absolutely no attention.
It's a question haunting and enraging humanitarian groups.
I'm furious. I'm furious that those with power shrug as the humanitarian nightmares unleashed on 1 million children. I'm furious that children who are recovering from amputations in hospitals are then killed in those hospitals.
Tuesday, Israel opened the door to a second humanitarian pause in fighting.
That Israel is ready for another humanitarian pause and additional humanitarian aid in order to enable the release of hostages. And the responsibility lies fully with Sinwar and the leadership of Hamas.
We affirm our position.
A senior Hamas official has said they do not want to hold negotiations over prisoner exchanges while the war continues, but is open to initiatives to end it. For this family of 9, this Jeep is their only shelter. Crammed with belongings and children, it's all they have after fleeing northern Gaza. I swear they cry all night. All night they cry, this grandmother says. This is the 7th place we've been displaced to. Some here tend to others by baking bread, focusing on what they can do instead of what they have no control over. So that people can survive, this man says. They want to live. Where can they go? A question that, for now, remains without an answer. Julia Wong, CBC News, London.
Google is refusing to remove a notorious website from its search results despite a formal request from Canadian health officials. A CBC News investigation has found a pro-suicide forum has been linked to multiple deaths here and abroad. Some users died after ordering products from accused poison broker Kenneth Law. CBC's Thomas Degg has more.
Around the world, users are logging on to a pro-suicide forum and finding ways to die. CBC News isn't naming the website to avoid promoting it, but it's accessible through a simple Google search. And we've learned the internet giant is refusing to take action despite an official Canadian federal request.
They're choosing not to, which is obviously unfortunate. There's no value to this site. It doesn't benefit anyone. In fact, it does quite the opposite.
A CBC News investigation found multiple deaths in Canada and abroad have been connected to that forum, including suicides linked to Kenneth Law. The alleged poison seller is facing charges of second-degree murder and abetting suicide for 14 deaths across Ontario.
They're all people, and they were loved by their family and
Speaking to reporters last week, police didn't name the forum, but said this.
It is of great concern to law enforcement. One of the challenges that we face are a number of these sites are located in other countries.
The Public Health Agency of Canada says it asked Google in October to remove the forum from its search results. The internet giant refused, telling federal officials in a letter obtained by CBC News, in order to proceed with the legal removal process with respect to your request, we require a valid court order. Gary Cooper from Liverpool, England, was 41 when he died. His brother blames both Kenneth Law and that suicide forum.
I put my life on it, that every single one of his victims and customers, anyone he's ever sent a package to, that customer has come through suicide for him.
As for Law, he made a brief court appearance today. He remains in custody, awaiting his trial. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Toronto.
This can be a very difficult time of year for many people. If you or someone you know needs help, remember this number, 988. The inflation rate held steady at 3.1% last month. That's according to the latest study released today by Statistics Canada. Anisa Dari has more.
That grocery bill is still going up, but not as fast as it was. Inflation is easing up when it comes to food, 4.7% higher this November compared to last year. The 5th month in a row, that rate has dropped. But not everything is slowing down. The price of meat, it went up faster than in earlier months. And that speed, the rate of food inflation, might be lower in 2024.
They will likely slow more as the year progresses, and one of the factors there is that transportation costs are falling now that we've seen a drop in gasoline prices, and that's a key, and even diesel prices for trucks.
One thing that is sky high, so to speak, travel costs. Tours went up more than 26% in November compared to last year. That could be a sign of economic strength.
It definitely signals where people want to put their money towards, and that's discretionary spending. And typically when you are in periods where you're facing household financial stress, that's the first thing people let go, is the recreational spending.
When it comes to goods, the stuff Canadians buy, inflation fell a bit. But services, no slowdown there. It was flat. And that matched the overall inflation rate too. At 3.1%, inflation in November was the same as in October. And while many economists were expecting it to drop, there are still predictions that interest rate cuts are coming next year. Anisa Dari, CBC News, Calgary.
As more people have a hard time making ends meet, food banks across the country have been facing unprecedented demand. Meeting that demand is always a challenge, but it's made even tougher when you're serving increasingly diverse communities. CBC's Aaron Collins shows us how a group in Calgary is working to fill the need.
How many? Okay, maybe 20, 30? Yeah.
It may not be turkey with all the trimmings.
Wait, Gary. 1, 2.
But for some, this food is key to a holiday feast.
Some cultures have a certain food that they can't afford to miss at that particular celebration.
So I will pay these 3 months, okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
But not all newcomers can pay for those familiar foods. This trip to the market an attempt to fill that gap. Stocking the shelves at this culturally inclusive food bank with staples from around the world like gari, cassava, and plantain flour. An attempt to give people in need the food they actually want.
I can see in their eyes they are happy. Like, they're happy that someone cares about them.
The program is the brainchild of this man.
When someone is in need of food, it is enough pain. You don't need to add one extra one to change then what they used to.
Demand for these culturally specific hampers on the rise as the holidays approach.
It's something that touches the human soul, okay? The food is very important. And just this is more than food. In this strange place, snowing, but they can see something.
The taste of home.
Taste of home, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
A familiar gift here, one needed to prepare this customary Eritrean flatbread.
We need it, we need it, we need it, because it is our food. You eat bread always, and we eat injera too.
A generous gift that keeps on giving. That smells so good.
Yeah.
Am I gonna need water?
Yeah, of course. It is spicy.
It's good.
Aaron Collins, CBC News, Calgary.
The holiday season, it can be a stressful time for travel. The airport in Berlin has adopted a way to help people relax, which our airport here in Winnipeg has actually been using for years. Therapy dogs. Passengers are delighted to meet furry four-legged friends wagging their tails, looking for a treat or a cuddle. These therapy dogs are a welcome way to put travelers at ease and pass time before boarding planes. The pups all belong to a local dog association that arranges airport visits during peak travel times. A volcano in Iceland is erupting. This time, it doesn't seem to be causing much concern. We're going to hear why and see more of the spectacular images after the break. They've had weeks of ominous rumblings, and they read them correctly. But now they've given way to a volcanic eruption in Iceland. Now, so far, there's no real threat from this volcano, just an incredible fiery display of nature. CBC's Dominic Velitis brings us the details.
Some stunning pictures of this eruption coming out of Iceland today, giving us a close-up bird's eye view of what's happening on the Reykjanes Peninsula. It started just after 10:15 p.m. local time, about 4 kilometres or so from the small fishing town of Grindavik. The authorities were prepared. Weeks of intense earthquake activity suggested an eruption was on the cards, and Grindavik's entire population was evacuated as a precaution last month. That's about 4,000 people. The Icelandic Meteorological Office says the power of the eruption is decreasing and, crucially, no longer flowing in the direction of the town. Experts, though, are warning that gas pollution could increase near the capital Reykjavik by this evening or tomorrow morning as a result. The authorities are now working to determine if that will pose a significant hazard to people or not. A lot of people were wondering if this particular eruption would cause the same level of disruption as the Eyjafjallajökull volcanic eruption back in 2010. The ash cloud that produced led to the largest closure of European airspace since the Second World War, leaving passengers stranded all over the place and costing the airline industry billions of dollars. The good news is that experts think this one won't have the same impact.
What came out in 2010 was a type of magma that fragments very easily into fine ash. And the combination of weather, wind, and dry conditions meant this ash was in the sky for a very long time. And also Western Europe was very unprepared for this, despite the fact scientists knew this was very likely. They weren't being listened to, so it was almost inevitable that would happen.
So as impressive as it looks, this eruption unlikely to have any wider implications for aviation, as we saw back in 2010. Indeed, the authorities say Reykjavik International Airport is still open today, with international flights taking off and landing as normal. Dominic Velitis, CBC News, London.
Weather Update is brought to you by the Art and Beauty of the National Ballet of Ukraine. January 29th at the Burton Cummings Theatre. Tickets at nationalballetukraine.com.
Let's check in once again with weather specialist Ethan Williams.
Thanks, Janet. Well, there's been a lot of talk about the jet stream this fall. The El Nino pattern that we've been seeing has pushed our jet stream well to the north at times. And over the next few days here, we're kind of starting to see this what's called zonal flow, just the jet stream kind of mostly moving from west to east. A little bit of a ridge moving in as we head into Friday, which means that we may likely see another bump in temperatures heading through the rest of the week and toward the weekend. Now, in terms of our forecast tonight, a little bit chilly as that cold front moves through northwestern Ontario. Lows generally in the minus 15 to 20 range. Could see a few flurries here and there as well. Cloudier as you go eastward in toward the Dryden area. For much of southeastern Manitoba, including Winnipeg, we're looking at mostly cloudy skies tonight. Most of us going to be hanging around between minus 10, minus 12. You get to eastern sections of the Inner Lake, though, a little bit chillier, and we're looking for wind chills a little bit closer to minus 30 there. Again, tonight in Westman, there is the possibility of some light snow, slight chance as that system begins to move through there, and temperatures kind of the same as what we're seeing in Winnipeg and the Red River Valley. It's the north, though, where we're seeing that really cold weather with that high pressure firmly in place. Some wind chills, especially around Thompson, getting close to minus 40. No advisories in place, though, for wind chills. We're expecting that will break in the next couple of days. But a little bit of lingering flurries in the Island Lake area. But other than that, most of us seeing a mostly clear and very, very chilly night. Tomorrow, though, temperatures warm up as that system of snow starts to move in. Tomorrow afternoon, again, we'll see that snow first in western sections. Could be upwards of 2 centimeters in the Lynn Lake area where it's a little bit breezier. The system doesn't move into places like Churchill and Gillam until a little bit later, so you'll be looking at mostly sunny skies, and that warm-up is yet to come for you folks. A little bit of morning snow possible in the parklands, but for Brandon, we should see some breaks of sun here and there. Again, a little bit breezy. This is where we get into those winds a little bit tomorrow afternoon, and you'll especially notice that in portions of southeastern Manitoba, including Winnipeg. There could be a gust out of the southeast upwards of 50 kilometers an hour or so. But again, mid-minus single digits is what we're looking at here. but cloudy as that system begins to move into portions of northern Manitoba. And finally, for northwestern Ontario, we're looking at temperatures that are a little bit widespread. Again, more cloud cover in the Fort Frances area, a little bit sunnier as you head northward, but that's where it's a little bit colder as well, looking for temperatures around -11 in Red Lake. These temperatures likely going to be holding through these next few days. I'll have a full look at your Winnipeg 7-day forecast coming up.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ethan. So, you think you've got a good idea for a toy. You can design it all you like, but then it's got to get past a panel of experts. Inside Canadian toy makers, next. Not surprisingly, this is a big time of year for toy makers. You might be surprised to learn Toronto's home to a $2 billion toy company. CBC's Eli Glasner paid a visit.
Welcome to Spin Master. If you don't know the name, you might have heard of their greatest hits. Power! Air Hogs. Ready for battle! Bakugans. And the omnipresent Paw Patrol. Inside the Toronto headquarters, you'll find inventors tinkering, toys getting glamour shots, and kids doing what kids do.
Couple things to look out for.
It might look like playtime, but the stakes are high. These designers and engineers need to know if the latest product is market ready.
Toy development is such a science and art blend. It's crazy because it's you want to create a magical moment, but you also need to make sure that it can be done and that it's safe.
When you're ready to attract a new Bitsy.
This season, there's an early hit.
So we'll open it up.
And what is that?
That's your astronaut dog.
This is Bitsy, created after years of trial and error.
Obviously, we have adult hands, not kid hands. We use adult forces to open and push down on things.
Enter the real experts.
I'm gonna hatch your egg. Okay.
Will these kids play with the water-activated Hatchimals the way the designers intended?
The water turned blue.
One decides the tiny blanket is the best part. The other discovers the egg doesn't open if you put it in upside down. Creating new toys isn't easy, even for Hasbro and Mattel, which rely on classic brands. Harder still for Spin Master, which goes for originals, like their early smash Air Hogs.
Air Hogs brought to you by Spin Master.
It was such a huge risk for us at the time, and it really catapulted us from being this little novelty company to this, to all of a sudden we were a real toy company.
Ben Verdi says the company was forced to innovate when the U.S. toy companies started shutting off distribution channels.
I would say it wasn't a philosophical decision as much as it was a decision of survival. And fortunately, we tapped into the inventor community.
There's all these strange, creative, genius, brilliant people all over the world doing these bizarre little things. We've got mechanisms here.
Rob Schuyler is one of thousands of inventors who pitch companies. His workshop is filled with flashing hedgehogs.
There he goes.
And this.
Is that you? No, but it's a voice actor.
Yeah, he's good.
So an invention can be really simple, or it can be pretty dumb.
But one thing unites them all.
To be an inventor, you're always failing, but failing doesn't have to be a bad thing. Failing is a learning opportunity, right?
And an industry learning opportunity could be looming, with experts forecasting a sluggish holiday season.
Toys are for sure affected by the economy, especially the higher priced toys. But as a general rule, parents will always sacrifice for their kids.
I know, right?
But the long toy timeline waits for no one. So while parents make today's tough choices, Spin Master is already imagining the great toys of 2026.
We OD'd ours a little bit.
Eli Glaster, CBC News, Toronto.
Quick bit of news for you. The Colorado Supreme Court has declared former U.S. President Donald Trump ineligible for the presidency, removed him from the state's presidential ballot. Decision cited the U.S. Constitution's insurrection clause, which bars from office anyone who swore an oath to support the Constitution and then engaged in insurrection or rebellion against it. Trump's lawyers have vowed to fight such decisions. Still ahead, Ethan Williams with your 7-day forecast and a miniature village you might think is out of control. We'll be right back.
Well, we're looking at a temperature -4 tomorrow. Again, a little bit breezy through the afternoon in Winnipeg with a bit of increasing cloudiness. And then as we get into Thursday, the skies clear a little bit. Still a little bit gusty here and there. That is the first day of winter, by the way. And as we head into the weekend, beautiful conditions above seasonal. Overnight lows not getting much below freezing. Christmas Day, we see a bit of that drop in temperature and maybe some snow on the ground with temperatures getting into those minus double digits, Janet.
Ethan, thank you so much. So it looks like we might have good weather for traveling. That's good for folks who have to drive. We have just 6 more sleeps until Christmas morning. Some people put so much work into their holiday displays, they just never want to take them down. And that is certainly the case for Alberto Esguerra. Our friends at CBC Edmonton talked to Alberto and his minimalist daughter about their not so minimalist village. Here's your daily lift.
Back home, we really love Christmas in the Philippines. We try to carry it here. It takes a lot of passion, patience, and patience. It's my dream. It's my ultimate dream to build one. As far as I can remember, since I was a kid, whenever we put up a Christmas tree, I always assort those cardboards that not being used in the house, and I try to make Christmas houses underneath our Christmas tree. And then when I came here in Canada 13 years ago, I was so amazed to see that there are some ceramic pieces like this. So it's quite expensive though, so I started looking at thrift store. We start buying them because it's cheaper than the brand new ones, so it grows. I have more than 100 buildings, and then people, I don't know, they're like mushrooms. They propagate quickly. We build it with the family, with my children and my wife. So we love Christmas so much.
I don't like too much things around me. And knowing that he has that much stuff made me think like, what am I gonna do if I see that every time I wake up? I got used to it, I guess.
This will take a long time, I said. I would say 5 months, an hour or 2 a day, and full day on my days off. Juggling around with the work and family is it's not easy in Canada, but we try to make time with the family. Actually, that is the real meaning of Christmas. Family togetherness, and it's easier when we do things together.
I still love Christmas as it is, and I've grown to like it even more than when I was younger.
My wife is already bothering me. When are you going to dismantle this? Maybe February, she said, but we might leave it for another year. We'll see. Yeah. We build something that makes us happy.
Oh, and it makes lots of other people happy, I bet, too. Just beautiful. We can forgive him for being an Oilers fan, right? Lives in Edmonton. It's not his fault. Thank you for being with us tonight. We'll see you at 11.